Welcome to AmA Media. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. Thank you and much love.
Fair use.
Sit back, relax, kick your feet up. Most of all, enjoy.
This is a family member's story. It was the 1990s, and she was relatively young at the time, maybe 5 or 6. She had been vacationing in Florida with her grandparents. They were getting ready to board a flight back home, but she told them that her tummy hurt really bad when she thought of getting on the plane. She refused to go, saying her tummy hurt too bad and she was staying there. She hadn't ever had problems flying before. They tried bribing and begging, basically everything short of picking her up and forcing her to get on the plane. Her mother was back home, watching the news on break at work, when she heard that a Florida flight had gone down roughly 10 minutes after takeoff and crashed in the Everglades. At such a low altitude, there was a small possibility of survivors, but the authorities determined that if they had made it, they were not likely to survive almost certain wildlife encounters shortly after the crash. They opted not to even attempt a rescue mission to avoid losing more lives. When they released the flight number, it was their flight. She freaked, but there were no cell phones, and the airport wouldn't tell her anything about whether or not they were on the flight. She left work in shock and grieved all evening. The grandfather finally called around midnight, casually telling her they were boarding a much later flight home after her daughter flat out refused to get on their plane. She sobbed, saying she was so happy to hear from him and that she was glad she did that, because their flight went down right after takeoff. He had no idea. The airport kept it very hush-hush, presumably so no other passengers would panic and/or cancel their flights. The mother didn't tell the girl until she was much older, 2 decades after her grandparents passed. She was in disbelief. She went through her whole life thinking it was a dream or something she'd seen on television, not that it was real life. She looked it up and read all the details, and was shook to learn that they would have been alligator food on the off chance they had somehow survived the crash. The instincts of children prevail. I had never really thought much about the paranormal until I moved into my first apartment. I got there a few days before my roommate and set up the basics. As I was sitting on my counter the first night, I watched my swinging trash can's lid moving on its own out of the corner of my eye. I shrugged it off, but things just escalated from there. My hanging blinds would move one panel at a time. There would be knocking up and down my bedroom wall, the other side of which was the living room. My TV would turn on at full volume in the middle of the night to an older black and white show. Eventually, I worked up the courage to ask my roommate about it, but she beat me to it at lunch one day. She casually asked if I was having any weird experiences, and we started sharing stories. After talking about it, things seemed to get more frequent, and I was having a hard time sleeping at night. Eventually, I sat up and yelled, "I'm not going anywhere for the next 2 years, so you can either let me sleep for work or, believe me, I'll find a way to get you out of here." Suddenly, the wall knocks went silent, my TV stopped turning on at night, and the paranormal activity seemed confined to the kitchen. Months later, my best friend and I tested positive for COVID and quarantined in my room for 2 weeks. Our ghost must have realized we weren't working at the time, because the TV began turning on at night again to the same old TV show, leaving my friend speechless. One night, I was sitting in front of my full-body mirror with my friend right next to me. I looked up to see a tall, thin man in overalls standing behind us. He looked as surprised as we were, and we immediately turned to look behind us, but he was gone. Long story short, we named him Charles and would have to warn anyone staying over about his antics. I've never had an object physically move in front of me since.
Thanks for watching this video. I hope you come back soon. So till the next time, much love.